with the Idaho Freedom Foundation. I'm being joined by Dustin Hurst. This Friday night, we're talking about the legislative session and the big topic that's come up recently. It's about Common Core. With my show on KID News Radio, lots of parents call in that do not like Common Core. I'm not a fan myself. So Dustin and I thought we would talk about that just a little bit tonight, as well as a few other topics. Dustin, even though you were here last time, I feel like saying welcome to the show. But
I'm your sidekick, your Robin Hood, if you will. Or,
exactly.
You're not Robin Hood. Robin. Oh my goodness, it's been a
okay,
long
you had a
week,
sidekick. Are you Little John? Can I be Robin Hood?
You're Robin Hood. I'm Little John. My mistake there. I'm so sorry.
It's fine for now.
I'm Yoda. You're Luke Skywalker. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
Whatever. I don't know.
Well,
anyway.
Yeah, so
we'll
take a poll.
Common Core tonight. And I've got a couple different takes on that. We've got grocery tax repeal is going to continue to be a hot topic. We've got some development on that. Where do you want to start tonight, Steph?
Well, we did talk about grocery tax. We covered it a lot last time. There could be a bit of an update. I mean, Wayne, president of the Idaho Freedom Foundation, is not surprised at all that the governor did not mention repealing the grocery tax. Conservative legislators are still all for it. What else have you heard?
Well, we know that legislators members of the House Revenue and Taxation Committee introduced the governor's income tax cut plan, which, again, we're in this interesting position of saying we're not super thrilled about a tax cut, which is a fun position that I don't think we've ever been really in this position before. They introduced the bill, so now it's introduced on the floor. It goes back to Revenue and Taxation Committee for a full hearing. And the reason they're doing this, we talked about this last time, and the reason they're doing this is they know that Representative Ron Nate, Representative Priscilla Giddings, Tammy Nichols, the Liberty legislators, the conservative legislators, if you will, the principled ones, really want what the people of Idaho want, which is grocery tax repeal. And those lawmakers want to beat the drum every single day of the session until it gets done. And the reason they're introducing this tax plan so early is so that those lawmakers can't beat the drum. They'll say, hey, we already
did tax.
We're done. Nothing more. And that's what they're doing. And it's really disingenuous. And we now know, if you believe Ron Nate, I happen to believe Ron Nate is a trustworthy dude. He's never lied to me. Still a politician, but I believe him. We now know that the bill is officially being blocked, and we now know who's blocking it.
Really? Well, this is a new development. Let's hear it.
It really is. So yesterday at Capitol Clarity, before we get to this clip, it's about 1:30. It's a little bit longer than I normally like to play, but I want you to hear Representative Nate's story about his conversation with Chairman Steve Harris, who is the chair of the House Revenue and Taxation Committee. So let's go to that and see what happened.
I was in a committee chairman's office yesterday, committee chair of the House Revenue and Taxation Committee. And I know that they introduced the income tax bill yesterday. It got introduced. It's House Bill 436. And I said, that's great. Let's have this arena of ideas. I have a grocery tax repeal. I know other legislators are working on property tax reform. When can I come and introduce the bill? And he said, no, not at all. And I said, well, why not? And he said, well, I'll tell you that once income tax gets all the way through on the governor's desk and signed, then we'll consider other tax policy. I said, what if it doesn't pass? He goes, if it doesn't pass, then maybe at that point. So do you see how this system is working? Is it working for you, or is it working for those in charge? I know the Senate chair said he would hear grocery tax repeal if it came across. The governor said he would sign it. I want to think they're genuine in those promises, but maybe they know. Maybe they know that the House the leader doesn't want to do that. And so the frustrating part is I said, when you do that, you are putting your will ahead of all of Idahoans, ahead of 104 other legislators. Are you willing to do that? And the committee chair said yes. And so he's willing to take that responsibility, he ought to take the accountability that comes with it too.
That's
So
right.
if you want property tax relief, if you want grocery tax relief, and you want to oppose the governor's income tax cut for his friend and invested interests, then let the House Chair of Rev and Taxation know your will. Let him know that you want to hear these other bills.
Folks,
Wow.
we live, a lot of people like to think that, hey, I'm going to elect a representative. I'm going to send him to Boise, or her. We need to be inclusive there.
Sure.
That person is going to have some really good ideas. And those ideas are going to get a fair hearing because that's how the legislature works. Nope.
Clearly
Nope.
not. You just
What's
said,
that?
you just said the chair of Taxation Revenue Committee said, I'm perfectly fine with not doing the will of the people of Idaho. Fine with that. And he actually said that. So I'm glad Ron Nate spoke up about it and said something. I wonder if they're shocked that Ron busted them and said what he said. I guess everyone knows now.
Everyone knows now.
Everyone
And
knows now.
it's unfortunate. And I want to bring this up because this is politics at its absolute worst. The reason being, a couple years ago, and you've heard this story a couple times now, Steph.
Right.
A couple years ago, Chairman Steve Harris, the chair of the House Revenue and Taxation Committee, he voted to repeal the grocery tax. He voted for that bill. I think it was 2017,
Yes.
the year before Brad Little was elected governor, right?
So we still had Otter.
We had Otter, right? And I still remember the day Governor Otter vetoed it. I was eating froyo with my kids when the veto came through, and Daddy had to go because that's what
Because the
happened.
governor did something stupid. Yeah.
I didn't tell my kids that way,
That was
but
nice
yes,
of you. I would have told my
They-
kids that.
they-
But
they
you're
were a
good
little
guy.
too young to understand that Butch Otter was anyway. So he voted for repeal, and then when the contention was after the veto from Otter that Otter mishandled the veto and that the bill should have been law, and the Supreme Court got a really twisted ruling. It's the screwiest thing in the entire world, right?
Right.
So then there was a lawsuit filed, and Steve Harris joined the lawsuit to
Screw this,
oppose
yes.
the governor. So what has changed since then? What changed? Any guesses?
You know what? I would just put it down to, I don't know. My question is, why do they love the grocery tax so much here? Why do we need it so bad?
Let's hang on to that point in just a second.
Okay.
We'll get there in just a second. What changed is that Steve Harris became chairman of a committee. What Scott Bedke giveth, Scott Bedke can taketh away. Scott Bedke is the Speaker of the House, and he opposes grocery tax repeal. And he also chooses who serves as chairman of committees. Chairman of committees get more money in campaign donations. They get offices, like suite offices for the House side, which is kind of rare. They get secretaries, they get power, they get all sorts of privilege if they do what the Speaker wants them to do.
So if they sell out, they get privileges. If you sell your representatives out, that's what you get. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So the fun thing is, and it doesn't hold perfectly true, and I haven't done an exhaustive study of this, but we run our Idaho Freedom Index. And it's funny because you can look at some of these lawmakers who were pretty conservative.
Mhm.
And because we've been tracking this for now, I think since 2013, so 8-9 years, whatever. And you can see they're conservative, and then they get to be a chairman, and it all goes downhill every single time.
Yeah.
There have been a few that have bucked that trend, but generally, when you become a committee chairman, your Freedom Index score
Freedom
drops.
Index
It's
score
the most insane
very
thing.
down.
So this is politics at its worst. One guy elected by his district, 45 or 50,000 people or whatever.
Right.
Not really even that. I mean, when you look at the actual votes, he was probably elected by 20,000 people, but he
But
represents 50,000, is blocking this. Now, if he were the governor, that's one guy. That's okay because he was elected to do that.
sure.
But one committee chairman, and by the way, we like to make this point known at the Freedom Foundation.
Right.
The committee could override the will of the chairman. The chairman doesn't have final say.
Oh,
They could override it, but they won't because why? most of them want to be chairman. They want
Right.
to curry favor. Some of them are in leadership already,
Mhm.
and but some of them want to be chairman. So they say,
So
"Hey, I'm not going to buck the chair because I want to be there someday. I want to be doing that, and I want the speaker to love me."
right, and know that I'm loyal.
Yep.
Not loyal to your constituents or the people of Idaho or the Idaho Constitution and represent those people, but to the Speaker of the House, to the committee chair. Isn't that an oligarchy? I mean, that's just a few people in charge here.
Yes. Yep. And to be clear, like somebody has to set an agenda, I suppose. But I'm kind of a purist when it comes to legislative matters.
Oh, sure.
I believe honestly that every single bill that should be that lawmakers want to bring should receive an up or down vote. Every single bill.
Right.
You want to bring minimum wage, jack it up to $55 an hour, which is probably the next rate that they're going to go for.
Next ridiculous.
Do
Right.
that. If you want to mandate people have guns, bring that for a vote. Every bill should be heard and given an up or down vote. I don't care how long the session takes. And some people will ding me for that because the session costs $36,000 a day or whatever. Fine. But I'm just a purist. I think that there are lots of ideas out there. We elect, and by the way, Republicans have good ideas, libertarians have good ideas, and P.S. Democrats even have some good ideas, and I want to hear them all.
Sure.
And then I want to vote on them, and I want my lawmakers on the record. I don't want them hiding from tough votes. I don't want them using the legislative tricks to get out of stuff. And I know that that's how politics works, but it shouldn't. It shouldn't.
Well, I'm glad you're laying this out, what happens in these committees with chairmen. That's, like you said, they should be allowed to vote on. But if something's not going to make it out of a committee, that's where a lot of good ideas go to die, is a committee, right? Because it seems like they all have an agenda. So what people need to do is, again, elect representatives that are going to represent them, not what the Speaker of the House wants, not what the committee chair wants.
Yeah.
Going to elect them. But this is good we're bringing this up, because if somebody's running for office, you could say to them, so when I send you to Boise and you get on a committee, are you going to be loyal to that committee chair, or are you going to listen to our emails and our phone calls? That's the question you need to ask when someone wants your vote. Not just, I have great ideas. I love the Constitution. Okay, but are you going to represent me?
That's fantastic. Yeah, it's actually really cool. So we do our Legislature 101 class where we educate people on the legislative process and how bills become law. We explain this or whatever. But it seems like every time we have that class, before we get to the process, we ask, hey, what do you want to know? And everybody, without fail, we receive one question about, hey, why are they drawing so many bills? Which is encouraging to me, because not that it's happening, but people are starting to pay attention that a state Senate chairman or a state house chairman is drawing bills. That is
They're
fantastic.
familiar enough with the process to know something's rotten in Denmark here, right?
Yeah, that did not used to be a thing. People are starting to pay attention, and I love it. I think it's the most fantastic thing, because we need awareness to bring change, and change is coming. I think you're going to see, it won't be, nobody's going to lose an election because I would say that nobody would lose an election because they drawed a bill, but that's not true, because that already happened. That actually happened.
That did happen.
It did. In 2016, Chairman Rich Wills, he was chair of Judiciary, Rules, and Administration. He was kind of like the elder statesman of the House. He was respected. His kid is working for ISP now. He's like the head of ISP. He was the guy, right? And then this plucky lady from Hammett, Christy Zitto, said, hey, I'm going to challenge you. And he's like, okay. During that session, before that primary, Rich Wills drawed a bill that would have prevented lobbyists from giving gifts of any sort, or trips or anything, banned the gifts to lawmakers. He drawed that bill, and he lost big. He lost big.
See, people pay attention. People are starting to pay attention.
It's entirely possible.
That process.
Yeah, exactly. There should be consequences for this. I'm not saying that I want Steve Harris to lose or whatever, but somebody needs to wake up to the fact that this is not how a legislature should run.
No.
And it's unfortunate that it does.
Right. So the grocery tax bill is just one example of a lot of good bills that aren't even going to get out of committee.
Mhm.
So I don't think this is the first bill. I don't think this is the only bill that this is going to happen
Oh,
to. or only
absolutely not.
proposal.
Absolutely not. And I want to make a couple distinctions here. So when we say get out of committee, that suggests that there was a hearing, but it won't even get in front of the committee because it's just not going to be allowed to be
Yeah, no,
introduced.
you're right. I got you.
And there are some bills, and again, I'm a purist. I want every bill heard. There are what are called personal bills, which are a lawmaker just says, "Hey, I want this in the legislative record book," and
They're allowed
says
how many per legislative session?
as many as they want. And you'll see
Okay.
there's one day in the session where it's the deadline for personal bills, and you'll see like 20 bills come through. And most of them are put in House Ways and Means, which is the leadership committee that they use to rush through legislation or stop legislation they don't like. Most of them will be put in House Ways and Means.
Okay.
I hate that. The add the words bill constantly goes there. Grocery tax repeal. There was some one last year that went there, had to do with vaccines or something. Anyway, but they're just going to kill bills right and left, and it's unfortunate. It seems to happen more to the Liberty folks because they're not part of the
wonder why.
oligarchy. Yeah, it's strange, but it's unfortunate.
So it's not
so
going to be
unfortunate.
the only time this happens.
No,
And they're
no,
not
no.
even going to hear it.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about I don't know how to do this just yet. I'm the comms guy at IFF, and
Mhm.
I'm thinking about trying to figure out how to put together a list of bills that have been drawn and keep up the pressure on lawmakers and point out how many, whether it's again right leaning bill, left leaning bill, whatever,
Yeah.
and just keep a tally of how many bills have been drawn and why. Maybe we'll do a
That
weekly
would be
catch-up
very
on that.
revealing. Yeah, I think we should do a show on that. It's going to take a bit of research
Yeah.
because I think it happens more than once or twice every legislative session. But
It happens more than once or twice a day during the
Yeah.
thick of it. Quite frankly, it's not good. There's
this
a
one,
lot.
I mean, this is grocery tax repeal. This is something everyone's behind.
Yeah, and the economics too. Let's talk about that for a second because we're going to release an article I think next week about why, again, restating our case about why grocery tax repeal is good policy. And I want to note I was at the grocery store with my kids just like an hour ago. We went to the trampoline park and then we went to Winco, and oh my gosh, it is ridiculous how high food prices
Even at
are.
Winco.
Yeah, even in Winco, it's ridiculous. And people say because you got the sticker shock, people are like, oh, hey, this is my grocery cart, and all the food prices are higher now because sales tax is a percentage of your purchase. If
Yes.
your purchase is higher, your tax is higher.
So the state's getting more money because of inflation. Ta-da!
Yep. So at the same time, when you're struggling, there are people who are struggling to put food on the table because of inflation. Idaho, as is widely known, is not a high wage state.
Right.
At the same time, so we're taking more money from people when they need it. And again, the argument is, oh, well, we give them back their rebate at tax time. That's great. I don't need it at tax time. I need it now.
Yeah.
I need it at the register. Grant Burgoyne has made that point time and time again, and I love him for it.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly the point. Like I said, I probably spent $750, $800 on grocery tax last year. I don't even want to know this year. I'm almost scared to look, but I know my food dollar is does not go anywhere near as far as when Trump was in office. But we won't, we'll get on to grocery tax repeal. I'm all for it. So yeah,
Absolutely.
We all know inflation. Anyone that doesn't see it is, I don't know what they're drinking, but sounds good.
Yeah, it's not good.
But it's a good story. It's really good. Like you said, it's politics at its worst. They're not even tabling. They're not even hearing.
They're not even hearing.
One. So
and again, final point I think on this is, right now we have a $1.9 billion surplus.
Yeah,
this is the time that you can reform things, change things. You have some cushion. Now you need to be very cautious about how you do this because unfortunately, the state needs some money to do some things down the road. And, the grocery tax brings in a lot of money. That said, we can afford it. We can absolutely afford it. We can afford that and more if we do this right. And they're not doing it right.
make some actual lasting reform.
Yeah.
So we'll keep revisiting that, and I think it would be fascinating to talk about bills that weren't even heard or listened to because of what chairmen have said. So we'll get on that. Now, the next topic you wanted to talk about, this always gets parents, everyone has something to say about this. We're talking about Common Core, okay? What's on the table for the legislature with Common Core this session?
Now, I want to make a point here before we get into the actual thick of it with Common Core.
Okay.
I want to read you a headline from the Spokesman Review, which isn't necessarily an Idaho paper, but this was written by Keith Riddler, the AP's, shall we say, propagandist in the Idaho Capitol.
I know Keith.
Yeah,
Now
he's a
I do.
good
Well,
writer, but
yeah.
the headline does something specific. It says, lawmakers aim to reject and replace Idaho education standards.
Right.
Now,
right.
for the average person, what does that mean? What do you understand about that?
It means everything's going to go crazy. There'll be no standards. Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
Yes. What else does it do? It omits two key words.
Okay, read the headline one more time.
Lawmakers aim to reject and replace Idaho education standards.
Reject and replace Idaho education standards. All right, so what words are we looking at? Reject and replace.
No, those are good words, but it's
Okay.
missing the two words that are key here to
Oh,
really.
okay. I thought you wanted me to
Common
pick
Core.
out two words. We got to work on
Common Core.
Oh, you wanted him to bring up Common Core, so he's calling it education standards. I see what you're saying.
Which that's not inaccurate. These are Common Core education standards,
Yeah.
but I think what's happening. By the way, this entire topic has been radioactive from the beginning. So how we got Common Core is not through the legislative process, believe it or not.
Okay.
Or not through the full legislative process.
You know, we got Common Core about what, 10 years ago?
Yeah, it was 2011, and here's how it works. Typically, when you think of legislation, you think here's a bill written, it goes through the committees, it goes through the floors, and then the governor signs it. That's not how this happened.
Okay.
I don't think it would have happened. There's a process called rules, and rules are administrative rules that kind of fill in the gaps where state law lacks, if you will. And they don't make up stuff most of the time. Sometimes they do. But the idea is that it brings more nuance to the law, so agencies have direction to do stuff, right?
Mhm.
So we got that. We got Common Core, a complete overhaul of our education system standards through the rules process, not proper vetting like it should have been.
10 years ago, before I knew I could do something about this. All I knew is Common Core is coming. Some people fought against it. So there was no vote. It was through rules.
Through rules. And that process, by the way, it's insanely difficult to change the rules. It's very, very difficult.
Wow.
We've actually done a lot in this in the last couple of years because there's a bill that requires, it's an enacting bill basically that says, hey, all the state's rules apply this year. Well, they didn't pass that bill a couple times, and so the state's rule book got tossed. It's great for political nerds. It's inside baseball. I don't want to go into it more than I have to, but so
he got us Common Core.
They got us Common Core through the rules process, and to reinstate them, it's a mess. But anyway, so but the point I want to make there is, from the beginning, this has been sold as something else. So Tom Luna was the architect of this. He's now the chair of the Idaho Republican Party, and he's a lobbyist for pro Common Core groups. He was lobbying. There's more to that, but he was lobbying last year to keep the Common Core standards when lawmakers brought it up. They've been doing this for a couple of years now. IFF was instrumental in leading that charge and almost got it done. We'll talk more about that too. There's so much to talk about. But anyway, they call these the Idaho content standards. Idaho content standards. That, again, that's putting lipstick on a
Idaho on something and say it's Idaho standards. It's not. It's Common Core.
I don't know if you've seen these things, but Butch Otter, our illustrious former governor, is on a billboard in downtown Boise wearing his cowboy hat and his tight pants, and he's bucking hay or something. And it's an advertisement for Blue Cross or something. It says Medicare the Idaho way. I'm like,
oh yeah, I saw those. We
what?
have one of those, like the Idaho way. Is it? It's
just putting lipstick on a pig.
Right. The Idaho way. Like I said, citation needed with that. So we got Butch Otter. How's he factor into this
So
Common Core?
he oversaw Common Core. I mean, he could have used his bully pulpit to repeal them. He didn't, and so they remain. So last year we came very, very close to repealing Common Core in Idaho.
Yes.
And what happened is the House Education Committee, which was a very conservative panel last year, rejected the rules, completely rejected the rules, and said, "Hey, we're not going to do this, and we're going to find some new standards." And that's the thing is again, and what you mentioned is true. When people write about this, they say, "Oh, it'll be the wild, wild west
Yeah.
in there," and no, it won't. There will be new standards implemented and standards that are way better. I talked to what is her name? There was an expert I talked to about this and said, "Hey, the Massachusetts math standards are way better than Common Core's will
Right.
ever be," and parents actually can do the math with their kids.
Yeah.
Um,
I've
but
talked to a couple of people who are on a committee to try and revise the standards and get Idaho away from Common Core. So there has been work done.
Yeah, there has been work done. Now the House committee rejected them, and last year, and then the Senate committee said, "Yeah, we're going to keep them," and it was unfortunate that happened. Or was that 2 years ago? Anyway, it was recently, and they said they signed a letter. It was 2 years ago. Excuse me. They
Mhm.
signed a letter saying, "Hey, we would really, really like the state education department to review Common Core standards and get them replaced."
Right.
And we're going to see the rollout on that this year, and we'll see what happens. We'll see how similar they are to original Common Core. But so now we do have legislation to repeal Common Core in Idaho,
Okay,
and
good.
the lefties are already freaking out. You see it on Twitter. It's
Right.
crazy because they're fuming, and it's funny because Ilana Rubel she's the minority leader in the
Yes.
House, the Democrat from Boise. She's somebody I respect. I don't agree with her, but I
Mhm.
like her a lot because I think she's very thoughtful
Mhm.
and artful, and she gets very passionate on the floor during some debates. It's really fun to get her riled up because she won't pull her punches. I love Ilana
She's
Rubel.
fun to watch. Gotcha.
She really is. But she says about Common, she's like, especially the science standards. She's like, we don't need to politicize Common Core science standards. We need to follow the science.
Uh,
And it's funny because what
it's
that
so hard
means,
to follow the science right now. Go ahead.
yeah. Well, and it's the same thing with the COVID-19 debate, which is okay. What does follow the science means? It means you accept the leftist dogma on whatever it is that
And
they
the
are
science
defending.
changes every day now with these guys.
Yeah.
Nobody. There was an alert today about the CDC giving out mask advice. I thought, well, bold of you to assume I'm going to listen.
Yeah.
You guys are always giving out new information.
Yeah, but that's the point. Is there? It's not about following the science.
No,
It's not about following the science. It's about following what the Democrats and the liberals want.
right.
Now, the science standards are politicized. Everything is politicized, by the way, in case you hadn't noticed, especially education. And she's saying, don't politicize them. Well, they're politicized because they say global warming is real and that we need to, regulate cow farts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then we probably need population control. I don't know if that's actually in there, but everything that the Democrats think about global warming is in Common Core standards.
Right. Well, that's how their agenda's pushed. I've seen
Yeah,
it.
and so we need to follow the science. Well, no, we don't. We need to be able to teach all sides and teach.
Get some
And by the way,
reasonable standards. Idaho could lead the way with this. Some reasonable standards. Like you're saying, what was it? Michigan or Massachusetts has great math standards. Why can't we look at those? Right?
yeah,
Take
absolutely.
a look and yeah.
And that's the thing is one of the criticisms of Common Core standards is that they aren't very high, and everyone has criticized IFF for saying, hey, we need to get rid of Common Core, and they say that line where you just want to destroy public education and you want kids to be dumb because that
Yeah.
grows your
No,
voter base. IFF,
right.
and I'm saying, first of all, we don't have a voter base. Second of all,
Yeah.
no, I want much better standards. I want our kids to be.
Right.
I want them to reach really high, not have to jump over the low bar. That's what I want.
Right. A Common Core does not allow a whole lot for imagination or kids solving things their own way either. That's
Yeah.
my problem with it. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
and we could talk about the problems with Common Core on and on, but like you said, the point is that it was passed in Idaho. I don't know if I want to say unethically, but there wasn't even really a vote. There really wasn't any representation on whether or not we wanted Common Core. And here
that's
we are.
well, and I will say the two committees did vote on them,
Mhm.
but again, it's one of those things that was buried deep in the legislative process. Not many people really understood. I was a reporter at the time for IFF, and I didn't really understand what was happening. I mean, I kind of just saw those. I was like, I looked at the agenda. I remember looking at the agenda saying, "Oh, Idaho education standards. Okay, cool." Had I known what it really was,
Mhm.
I would have probably paid more attention and said, "Hey guys, this is Common Core. This isn't great." And I want to point out, this is just like the money thing too. We always hear that Common Core or the latest educational fad, whether it's
Yes.
money, whether it's whatever, will improve test scores because our test scores suck. Our kids
Oh.
can't read, they can't do math, they can't
Yeah,
write.
we don't know how our kids are even walking around alive with the stand. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, exactly.
I've heard it all.
And they say, we need these standards. Common Core will fix so many things. Well, guess what? We've had Common Core for
2011. So.
well, 2011 they were accepted. It took a couple years to roll them out.
Yeah.
We've had them since say 13 or 14. Test scores have not improved.
Exactly.
In fact,
They've
they've
been fudged.
dropped in some ways.
Right.
So okay, if you want to defend public education, let's do that. Let's go there. Common Core hasn't done what you said it was supposed to do. What you said. So what's your answer to that? You defend that. I want to hear your defense.
Well,
Not
who do
you.
we ask
Meaning
these
I'm talking about
questions
liberals, not
of?
you.
No, I know, but who are we asking? Who do we contact and ask these questions? What has to happen? You're saying there's legislation in place. What has to happen to get people behind this? What has to happen to get legislators to look at this and say, yeah, we should probably get rid of Common Core?
My guess is, so if you look at this, it's in the House Education Committee right now. And if the process, I didn't watch the introductory hearing. So I'm just shooting from the hip here, but my guess is in the next 2 weeks, the chairman will give it a hearing and we'll have a really long debate and you'll hear a lot of liberals cry about global warming. I'm dead serious.
Global warming.
It
They
takes
don't want to follow. They want to write their own archaic science themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And they want to force it on
rumors
everybody
will
else.
fly. Crazy unsubstantiated rumors.
Yeah. So the House will hear it. My guess is that they'll pass it by a very narrow margin.
Okay.
Because the makeup of the committee has changed since 2020. We're in 22 now. Holy cow.
Yeah.
But the makeup has changed, and then it'll go over to the Senate committee. And I honestly, the theme of 2022 is that the Senate is the worst. And I don't know if the chairman over there, Steve Thane, will give it a hearing. I hope he will.
Right.
And B, I don't know if Dave Lent and Jim Woodward and Senator Lori Den Hartog will vote for it to repeal our Common Core because they didn't do it 2 years ago and they lacked the spine to get it done.
Right. This is a huge decision. This has to be talked about. This involves our children. This involves the Idaho public school system. It has to be discussed. I don't care if they're scared of it. I mean, the best thing to do is call your representatives and tell them they need to vote on this.
They absolutely do. And hopefully they'll vote the right way, understanding that we can do way, way better for Idaho students, way better. So Common Core is back on the table. Yeah, I mean, this session was, I didn't even think about that when I thought about the 2022 session and what could happen. And this just makes it an even better session for those who love political drama. I just finished The West Wing last week, and it's filled with this type of political drama, just this back and forth. And this is one of those issues that is hot button, will get people hot under the collars. Ilana Rubel will probably stand up and just unleash a string on her colleagues on the House floor, because Common Core gets people that way. So
look at this way. Common Core is a failed experiment. Why are we keeping our standards with a failed experiment? We don't need to do this anymore. So,
well, and then they'll say, by the way, the defense to what you just said is, well, they would have worked if we had if we had spent more money. That's always how it works. It's either
It's always if
it
we
always goes
spend
back to
more
one of those
money.
two.
I'll bet one of the arguments in the beginning was, this will do so great. This will be great for our budget. We won't have to spend so much money because Common Core, it's so great. It's going to make kids learn more, and we don't have to throw as much money into it. I can guarantee you're going to find somebody who argued that
Oh yeah,
back in
I'm
2011.
sure. It's funny because it's just the same. It's quite frankly, it's the same argument as socialism and why socialism fails. Oh, that wasn't real socialism. If real
Exactly, I hear that all the
socialism
time.
worked,
You guys didn't do it the right way.
Yeah.
You really don't understand Karl
Yeah.
Marx. You just,
yeah, your Common Core. It wasn't the real Common Core because you didn't have
right.
the
It wasn't the
funding
real
right.
Common Core. It was a watered down version of Common Core. Huge backlash coming for Common Core. I've been waiting. So hopefully this is the legislative session. I hope it'll happen.
We'll see. I mean, and we will keep you up to date on this bill. The like I said, the hearings are going to be fantastic. We'll get video from them because they're going to be epic. It's going to be
Yeah,
there's
you
gonna be a
gotta
lot
get.
to
Yeah, I
troll and a lot
definitely
to
wait.
make
I
fun of.
definitely want those hearings. I want to hear what they're talking about, and it's going to be fireworks. I think so.
Oh, absolutely. So
yeah, looking forward to it.
yeah. So before we close, there's a dog in here. Whoops.
Which one?
Yeah, whoops. Anyway, before we close, just remember, for those of you who are tuned in or watching this later, we want to invite you to keep joining us every Wednesday and Friday at 7 p.m. But also tune into Fred's Fiscal Fridays with Fred. If you want to understand the state budget, Governor Brad Little has said he's hiking spending by an astronomical 8.1%, but that's not even the truth. It's 17.1% when you include all the hidden spending that he's doing. And Fred kind of goes into that in today's episode of Fiscal Fridays with Fred. That's a mouthful. He goes into that and kind of touches on that. I mean, he'll touch more on that in the coming weeks because there are three people that know more about the budget in the state than Fred. Fred is our guy on that, and I want to make sure that you understand what's really happening because you're not going to get it in the papers. They don't understand this the way that Fred does. So make sure that you tune into Steph Lucas Live, watch Fiscal Fridays with Fred. We'll put them up on. They're already on our YouTube channels, our Rumble channel. We'll get them up there. Steph, any final thoughts from you tonight?
I think we're good. I watched Fiscal Fridays with Fred. It's great. It's a succinct to the point video. It's 7 minutes long, and he just lays it out there. So he's very knowledgeable. These are the things that people need to know if they want to contact their representatives, and not just when.
When
you contact your representatives. Common Core people should be getting a hold of the Education Committee about this now, or where do they express their concerns?
Yeah, weigh in with the House Education Committee right now, and we've got research on our website. All you have to do is search Common Core in the top right. There's a research paper. There's tons of articles that we've written about it. But especially if your lawmaker is a member of the House Education Committee or the Senate Education Committee, you can find those on legislature.idaho.gov. They need to hear from you now because I am 100% sure that the radical liberals at like the Idaho 97% project are saying, oh, these radical Republicans just want to
ruin standards.
Yeah, they want the wild. They'll probably, what they'll probably do is they'll probably say, oh, they want to teach white supremacy, and that's what they're doing. It's going to go there.
I wouldn't put it past them. They want to teach the wrong version of history. They want, no, it's going to be, I think it'll be fun. I think as these comments come out from the left, we should probably keep track of those. We could probably do like a top 5 next week or something.
Oh, man.
Things are heating up already in this legislative session.
It's week 1. It is week 1, and oh my goodness, it's shaping up to be an epic session already. And we're gonna be here with our viewers for every moment of it. And if you have any questions that you'd like us to answer for you, or if you have questions about specific legislation, you can always email those to me, Dustin@idahofreedom.org, or Steph@idahofreedom.org.
Absolutely. All right, Dustin, this has been great. We'll be back on Wednesday. I think we're going to have a lot to talk about with this legislative session coming up on Wednesday. We'll see if anything happened with Common Core, and I will talk to you then.
Thanks.